Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matthew, the middle child but only son, so it balances out. And I thought I'd conclude by putting a brave face on those last snarky remarks from the oldest sibling. Not to be sarcastic, those were all accurate, and I hadn't thought about black licorice ice cream in a long, long time. And I happen to love black licorice, especially the European salty type, but for ice cream it really is, well, to each his own. Seeing so many faces here that are, by definition, the essence of the man's life, and listening to people, it I think reminded me so much of the sum and substance of my father. And we see that his love of work, which was demonstrated by his work ethic and his great loyalty to people with whom he worked, and the loyalty that was reciprocated and reflected here today is shown by his Genco side. We don't need to talk about tennis cronies. That speaks for itself. He probably spent more hours on the court than most human beings could ever even imagine. The other side of life that we got a glimpse of by some of the comments was also a very devoted family man. And this was a generation where the male was largely the provider, and at times perhaps the paterfamilias, but really taking sort of a secondary role, at least in terms of volume and volubility in terms of raising the family. But the fact that he spoke little carried proverbially the belt in the family meant that his throw weight was disproportionate to the, relatively speaking, fewer words that were expressed. So along those lines, I will just conclude by reminding everyone that my father was as advertised, as reflected by the celebration of his life. It really did show the multi-dimensions of him. He was a man of relatively few words. He was more of a doer than a talker. So I'll end the talk with just one cliche that didn't quite come up, but I think most of you, or many of you, will be reminded of it as I conclude. And thank you all for putting on a very good show. A very good show. Thank you very much for joining.